Hi, Mike Urness here, founder of the ACT communication model, and I wanted to explain in this video the correlation that I realized over 20 years of effort on the change initiatives and how effective communication skills plays into that or affects that. And one more time for the definition of communication skills that I'm talking about, it's the ability to utilize a conversation with a group or an individual in order to change their perception, their behavior, or their decisions about something. And so that particular skill set of how well a group can engage and effectively influence other people is a major component of how successful change initiatives are, and it's kind of like been lost on the radar screen. And so this video is about putting that thing back on the radar screen. Matter of fact, the infographic is around really doing two things. One is helping you recheck how clear are you on your change initiative, and do we need to tighten that up a little bit, because that's a common problem that I've seen over the years in terms of when I've been brought into organizations saying, here's what we really need help on. I look at when they say, here's what it is, it's typically a little looser than what it ought to be or than what it could be. And the degree that we have clarity on what we're trying to accomplish, it just speeds everything up. So one part of this infographic is around saying, hey, use this as a bit of a crutch and just ask yourself, go through these checks and balances and make sure that you have enough definition on what you're trying to accomplish to make it easy for everybody to understand and get behind. But the other part of the conversation is this, and it's what I realized maybe too slowly, over 20 years plus of going into these engagements, and that is that there is this communication. Like, so when you start at the top and you say, we want to change this thing, and it could be management productivity, or it could be how effective we are with managing our clients, or client satisfaction, or retention, or revenue per client, or it could be around acquisition of new clients. All those things are potential change initiatives that we may want to use to increase shareholder value, to decrease or mitigate risk, or exposures. But those things really boil down to kind of a next level down of detail, and that is, what's the key performance result you're trying to get? And typically, that's going to be much more defined than this change initiative. So there are either a result or a couple of results that are really core to making a company feel like they've made progress in this higher level concept. And then below that, you have your key performance indicators. What are those things that are going to be helping us understand along the way, are we moving in the right direction? And oftentimes, this is where things get a little bit murky, within organizations, that they haven't quite spent enough time and had the discipline to really clarify what those things look like, so we can manage towards those or get feedback, more clearly along the way. And then the last part also that most companies aren't disciplined enough in, and that is setting a date from the outset as to when are we going to review? When are we going to review and decide, do we persevere as is? Do we pivot? Do we stop the initiative altogether? But that date needs to be set in motion. And there's lots of good information on that, and this is not novel. I'm just pointing out what I've seen, and what may hopefully be a little bit of an invite, for you to review your own initiatives for its level of clarity. And again, I hope this infographic serves you, because that's part of the goal. The other part of this is that I want to be able to call out clearly what people oftentimes miss, even when they're disciplined enough to go through these 7 steps. And it is the communication skills component. So when we look at any change initiative, and I mean any change initiative, we're going to see that there are going to be important conversations where we have one group of people, and it could start up in management, down into the organization, or it could start with groups out to customers, or out to prospects, or out to channel partners, or wherever. But you'll see that in any one of these change initiatives, there are going to be one to more, to many of these conversations that the outcome of that conversation is really important for the overall success of the initiative. But what's happened over time, and is that we just don't have clarity on that's a big deal. And what I found was I didn't either when I was going into it. But what I began to understand was that a lot of my results were predicated on the effectiveness of my team. How good were they at really engaging organizations or individuals on educating them, on influencing their perceptions, on ultimately influencing their behaviors and decisions. And so what I realized was two things. One, my life was going to be easier when I chose projects that I could see that these people were pretty good and they had those skill sets and they, it just worked better. Things happened faster. I also realized that there wasn't a way of training these people. Like, this was just something they innately figured out over a period of time. And it wasn't like I could just bring to bear a methodology or a strategy of training these people if they were deficient, or even if they were already good and we just needed them better, which is oftentimes the case. So this communication skill piece was really relevant in overall success, but it also was very elusive in the sense that it's not called out. You can look at your change initiatives right now. To the degree you have things documented, I promise you, you don't have that. Well, what are the conversations that we need to make sure really go well? And it's so important, but again, we just have become numb to the fact that this is just kind of, we've accepted it. How's this? That we've accepted the fact that, well, we're going to have those conversations and they're going to go the way they go. And they're going to be okay, and and they're going to work at a decent level. I've got good people and they're going to do their best. We can do better than that. And that's really the message that I try to bring to bear. First step is awareness. Having people understand communication skills are probably the most important performance indicator for how well an overall initiative is going to come. And it's not on the radar screen. So one is awareness. And then two is around, we now have training that we can identify conversations and we can train around those conversations, and people can walk away with more clarity because there's a communication model specifically designed for important conversations where they can get it, they can better understand how to prep for it, how to manage the conversation itself. And then with that clarity, we can also support them and hold them accountable to do it better over a period of time. So even if we have good people, we have the ability to leverage those very important conversations and make them better. And it is so cost effective because it's so important, and it doesn't really take that long if you know what you're doing and if you have a clear model that you're working towards. Literally in my training around this, it is 4 hours of face-to-face time over a series of weeks. And at the end of that, they have the model, they have the clarity, and they have a bump in improvement in those specific conversations. Now, communication skills, especially this conversation, influential conversations, is something that is like working out. And if you don't do it and practice it, it's going to dissipate over a period of time. And you do it more consistently, you get better and better at it. So it's not like I say everybody's done in 4 weeks and they're perfect for the rest of their life. But what they do have is they have the model, they've had a bump in improvement, and they have a culture of how to approach these important conversations going forward like they've never had before in their life. And it's fantastic because there's more clarity, there's more certainty. And that's what many people are striving for, especially when they get into more emotional, more high stakes types of situations. So that's kind of how the change management process and how effective communications play together, how that relates to your specific situations. Always happy to talk to you about it. I mean, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I love doing, and anything I can do to serve you is fantastic. So hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about this in more detail at some point soon. Thanks.